you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die, and can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
I'm Darshana Patel. I'm a Lucid channeler.
So Dorso, where are you from?
I was born in India and grew up in the United States. I was a year old when we moved here.
So no memory of being in India, or of course not. So you're born in India, grew up in the US. Have you been back to India?
3 times, yes.
What was that experience like?
It brought back a lot of memories, I think more from past lives. There was a strong connection, I think, with India and different parts of India.
Yeah, there's something about India, isn't there? It's a special place, right?
It's very magical. There's something about the vibration there and this balance that's naturally present in the midst of all the chaos.
And what past lives do you think you had there?
There's one, I went to the Sun Palace and immediately I felt a strong connection. I've been there twice, and the first time as a child, I was 8 years old, and I couldn't explain how overwhelming it was, and I could actually get glimpses of what it was like back in the, I think it was like 1100s. Just such a powerful energy for me.
What was it like growing up then? I mean, what was that, was there any sort of experiences that you had that were unexplainable or paranormal?
From the time I remember, I've always heard spirit talking to me. I can remember some of my earliest memories just playing outside by myself and hearing things like everything is energy, that there's a mind, body, emotional, and a spiritual layer to the human experience. Just all this wisdom I would always just kind of hear whispered in my ears. And I would see things, feel things. I would wake my mom up feeling like someone was touching me while I was sleeping. And it does run in my family too, on my mom's side of the family. So there's at least 3 generations that we know of with intuitive abilities.
Okay. And did you speak to anyone in the family about those experiences? Did they know about them?
They are aware, and my mom had premonitions when she was younger. She shut down her abilities, but she had very strong premonitions that she would often share, and then they would transpire exactly how she said it. Something as simple as, someone's going to come over today. She would name who it was, and there they were. To something going awry, like an accident, but she was quite in tune.
What did you think when she was doing that? Did you think, that was normal?
It was normal because I had the same. It was more validating for me than anything else. And then I have an 18-year-old daughter who, her abilities are much stronger than mine are even. She's very much tapped in.
Wow, okay. So, so you say you grew up in a very spiritual household then?
I would say that. My parents meditated, they prayed daily, and so this idea that there's a consciousness outside of ourselves is just part of the Vedic tradition, right? It's in India, there's always this connection with something bigger than us, and so that was just instilled from early on, and the idea of reincarnation, that this is one of many journeys that we take.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, so how, I mean, what was your kind of turning point to get into these subjects as well? What kind of got you into it? Obviously you've got the background, you know, you was, as a child you were sensitive, there was, there's other extrasensory side of you, but what, you know, sort of pushed you into it?
I would say a natural inkling. I call it the burning yearning of the soul. So as a child, I would walk to the library, and the very small collection of books that they had on paranormal, ghosts, spirits, meditation, spirituality, anything I could find, I read as a child. So I consumed a lot of information on psychic development, automatic writing, and so before the age of 9, I was meditating and automatic writing. I continued that through middle school, and then in high school I shut it down because I felt like a lot of negative or lower vibrational presences around me. I couldn't sleep, you know, I was a very scared child, very sensitive child. And so I shut it all down for many years, up through college, through my 20s. I was in the corporate world for many years, and then in my 30s and fully in my 40s, I stepped into my gifts.
So when did it actually, what age did it come in then, would you say, do you remember?
Fully, I left the corporate world in my late 30s and stepped into this work fully about 4 years ago.
Was that pretty scary too?
It felt like the right thing to do. I just followed my intuition, and it said it was time. I was very ill at the time as well, and so I knew my body was telling me I could no longer deny the work I'm here to do. And so I stepped into it, just trusting that it would all align, and it did.
Were you, where did channeling come into that?
So channeling evolved as I was doing energy work on people, information would start showing up, because to me, everything is just information. It's particles of light organized in formation, in form, at ion. Ion is a charge, it's a particle of light. And so this is information I've been channeling recently, that everything comes from a source vibration, and an ion is a charge of negative or positive polarity. It's a distinction, I-O-N, it's a distinction of source vibration. And so as I'm working, I started recognizing that there's so much more information available to us as we start to reach beyond the vibrations that we're typically attuned to. And so as we open up to higher vibration, to expanded vibration, there's other layers of information that would come through. So the channeling naturally evolved as I opened up my own field of consciousness and awareness to the collective.
Were there any sort of, is there any sort of books that really resonated with you to help you on that journey?
I would say the work of Carla Ruckert and team, The Law of One and the channeling of Ra, was instrumental. I really haven't gone through all of it, and just the pieces that I've been exposed to spoke very, they spoke directly to my soul, and that language of resonance is I think how I'm wired. I'm attuned to be an instrument that helps alleviate distortion in the field, and that's really the epicenter of that work is the harmonization of energy back to source.
So just explain then to us just what sort of channeling this is then and how it works.
So for me, when I'm channeling, I'm getting very much in tune with my unique vibrational signature. So to me, every manifestation, every individuation of source consciousness is simply a particular vibrational resonance. It has to have its own resonance to be distinct in the cosmos. So as I attune to my own resonance, I can then become aware of other resonances that are available in the collective field. So what I do is move my vibration slightly aside and allow more of source to flow through me, and whatever information or patterns are present is what can be addressed or discussed or illuminated in order to shift individuals and collective to a higher perspective, if you will, an expanded level of consciousness.
So what's what's a general reading? I kind of want to ask that. What is that like when someone comes to you to get a reading then?
So my primary work is the energy work, and as I'm doing that, when there's information that wants to be illuminated for the individual, that will come up. I do group sessions as well, so in a group channeled session, it is me, and I'm reading the energy of the room. So like to be in that experience, there's a sense of elation. Notice the ION, it's an elated charged light particle. And so I'm allowing the flow of source, and whatever wants to arise just manifests itself. So it's working with the collective energy. And then what I love to do is, in that work, help individuals recognize how we're uploading and downloading information to this collective consciousness, and then have the ability to filter our negative from being uploaded to the collective, but then also being aware and mindful of what we're downloading from the collective. So as a civilization, we can begin to become accountable for not only our individual resonance, but the collective as well. So in a group setting, I'm helping individuals become more present to their own vibrational signature, their own resonance, and then the impact that has on the collective.
If you hadn't gone down this road with the work that you're doing, where do you think you'd be now?
Quite unhappy. A successful corporate woman with a soul that was burning for following this path. And what's interesting is I was looking back on what I did for a living, and I have a degree in IT and conflict, and my master's is in conflict with an undergrad in information technology. And some of my clients have told me I'm like the Rosetta Stone of vibration. So as the more people I work on, the more frequencies and algorithms that I awaken in my sphere of energy. And so as I'm working on others, that resonance, that attunement that they may need to resolve a particular distortion in their field or a trauma that they're working to overcome is in my field. So the more individuals I come in contact with, the more algorithms I have available to alleviate or remediate distortions in others' information fields.
That's interesting. Okay, then every reading that you're giving, I suppose this counts for most channelers, it's also something in there for yourself as well.
Absolutely. In the work I'm doing, my body has to resolve the same distortion if it's present in mine. And it's also building almost like a library of patterns that I can work to resolve in others. So I think I'm really coming into my full capacity now, and acknowledging what I'm built and wired to do is work with that vibrational resonance and alleviating that distortion.
So then how did your husband take the shift when you went into this work then and started to channel full time?
I was actually not married at the time, and that's a whole different story. I had an arranged marriage, and with the souls pointing, I left that structure entirely and continue to follow my path. Yeah.
So how has the family taken you now?
They're taking me seriously now that I've been doing this 4 years with a very abundant practice. I feel very blessed, and I think they see how fulfilled I am, and who can try to diminish the light of someone who's fulfilled and making a difference in the world.
So your husband now, then he's in alignment with your work?
No husband.
No husband, okay.
Which is part of the struggle in this line of work, is finding companionship that understands what it takes to be a clear channel, as clear as possible, because the way I eat, what I'm around, the environments I'm in, the things I will or will not participate in, reflect the vibration that I'm here to hold. And in fact, part of my soul journey, Kevin, is I'm gay, and so being able to resolve even that struggle in society has helped me hold deeper compassion for the multitude of perspectives and judgments that are out there. So my life path has been, I call it the petri dish of conflict, and that's why I have a master's in conflict, was to help stretch me in understanding that conflict is actually an access to greater consciousness.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring the relationship side in there as well, because whenever you do this work, I think one thing I've noticed is that you're always sharing, there's always a third person in the room.
Yes.
With a channel, and you know, it's not going to bed with one, it's two.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, wow, you've set yourself some challenges in this life then?
Absolutely. To me, this was my culmination. It's like my final exam. And what it does to me when there's struggles in life, it just helps us become more centered and clear with who we are. So to me, it was just that all that abrasion helped me reconnect with my core and my authentic self, which then I can hold space for others to do.
So what would you say is your purpose right now?
To help raise collective consciousness by helping individuals connect with their own resonance and being accountable for their energy and the presence they bring to a room.
Can anybody channel?
Yeah, I believe we're all channeling anyway. This vessel is plugged into some consciousness. So once we learn that vibratory nature of existence, it's a plug and play to me. Anything can use this vessel as long as we are aware and accountable. It can be done quite safely. So we're all channeling. It's a matter of what are we channeling and how aware are we of what we're channeling.
So what's the difference then between the voices in the head and the wisdom that comes through sometimes?
Absolutely. So what I do with my clients, I explain the voice in the head like a software program running in the brain, right? It's an egoic mouthpiece that's there to reinforce our beliefs, to keep us safe and secure, but it limits our full self-expression and our full ability to love without condition, because every belief wired in the brain shapes our perception, and beliefs are simply assumptions that we've taken as truth. So the voice is there regurgitating these beliefs, whereas the divine self is outside of that local mind, the wired brain. So the divine self resides in and outside. It's the source energy that runs through everything, and it's unlimited in its potential and its capacity to be plugged in to the field, the collective field of energy. So the voice is the local mind, and source vibration, when we're channeling openly, is the non-local mind.
Where would you like to see yourself with the way that your work's going right now? Do you have a mission, do you think?
I do. I think my mission's becoming more clear. There's work that I've been channeling around the vocabulary of light, reminding everyone that everything we're doing is working with light. So the ION words that I was talking about, like meditation. Meditate, when we look at the etymology of it, means to measure. It's measuring the light or the polarity that continues to exist in our resonance. Reflection, reflecting the light. Introspection, turning inward, reflecting the light. So all of these words, compassion, orienting ourselves to the charge of polarity that exists, and what are we going to do to remediate it or to hold space and, through the illusion, all these ION words, I think I'm supposed to create kind of the playbook, or I call it the field guide to the new awakening, to give us the vernacular and the vocabulary to learn how to be an energy alchemist. I believe that is where we're headed in this awakening, is being truly empowered and recognizing that we're not just light workers, we're light working, because we are light particles at work. And once we learn that we have the capacity through every action and every thought to shape this light, it raises our sense of connection and compassion to a whole other level. And I believe in this new playing field, interconnection really is the theme. We're no longer singular. We are singular in the space of an interconnected reality and domain.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Okay. And is there anything that you might want to add on there as well?
Let me think about that. I'm sure there's something. Let me just see what comes through. So what's coming through is talking about this awakening, this shift that people are feeling with intuition. So intuition is allowing ourselves that capacity to channel this source vibration that flows through all of us, right? It's like Star Wars. It's the force that connects everything. And when we tap into that openness to reach beyond the mind's knowing, that information flows with such grace. And that is this expansion, I believe, that we're stepping into, is one where there's less effort, there's more being versus doing. And the doing arises in a place that's grounded in that sense of how am I connected to a greater whole, and what is my impact with my thoughts, my actions, and my emotions in this interconnected space. So I believe in this new shift. It's a place of beauty, it's a place of love, it's a place that doesn't reside in the egoic center, but in the heart center, and we learn to use the ego versus the ego using us. So what's coming up right now in this collective vibration is this idea of artificial intelligence. You see, with our cell phones, our devices, and all these electronics, we are artificially intelligent. Because every thought that comes through as a headline, we're now uploading back, we're reinforcing that information as if it were truth. So the encouragement of Source is to step back and say, what is it that I'm consuming in terms of information? And how does that resonate with me? And do I want to amplify that resonance in the collective, or am I choosing to stop and pause and actually discount, negate that information from spreading and amplifying? Because what we're doing when we read a headline, it is entrenched in our energy field. And if we're unaware of that resonance, it's then uploaded back into the collective. So it becomes our reality, our emergent reality, because we're buying into that information. So what's coming through right now is we are artificial intelligence. And so recapturing our sense of empowerment by questioning what we're reading, not through critical thinking, but through critical being. So it's a sense of recalibrating with our core centered vibration. So meditation can be an all the time thing. It's not meant to be something we do, it's something we be. And that meditation is when we are truly channeling, because we're allowing an awareness with this collective vibration, and we're taking accountability for what we're putting in and what we're taking out of the collective. So essentially, we're rewiring and reprogramming this intelligent field of energy to not be artificial anymore, but to be intentional. So the theme for 2018 is really becoming more aware of the intentions behind the information we're consuming, the information we're creating, and understanding the why this information is important to begin with. So reconnecting with the values that we have. Simple values: connection, compassion, love, joy, ease. What is the world we want to create next? You see, we're at a pivotal time where there's pillars of society that have been stood up and created to serve the ego. That time is now done, and in this awakening, we're now standing up a new paradigm financially, healthcare, education. It's time for the visionaries to put these things in place so that we don't have to worry about tinkering with the old paradigms and structures that no longer serve this new resonance that's heart-centered. We simply shift to the new structures that are in place. So we have to disrupt the artificial intelligence that's keeping the old paradigm in place, to step back, regain our own resonance, understand our energy accountability, and then shift to this new paradigm. So think about money, for example. We call that currency because it is our energy exchange. It doesn't have to be. So disrupting the language and our beliefs and our values around what money represents is security and stability. How can we create that in new ways? What are the strategies for having stability and security and exchange in a new way? So as we're seeing, there's disruptive technology that's happening that's challenging the old narrative to stand up in the new paradigm. So what's coming through right now is the importance of recognizing we are artificially intelligent because we're buying into the information that's keeping us entrenched in an old paradigm.
Wow, that's interesting. And what would you say, obviously you're tuned in right now. You're here, but there's also something else that's coming through as well?
So what's coming through is that source resonance. So it's reading what's in the room, it's reading what's collective, it's tapping into what I know, what I understand, what's important to me as well. So it's kind of a blended approach.
Yeah.
What's in the room, I often feel my guides, the collective presence.
That's interesting.
My teeth will often chatter with a higher vibration, my body will go a little numb as well.
So you feel that your guides are here as well?
Absolutely.
And do you know who your guides are?
Ra's my primary.
Ra. And is he here now?
He stands to my right.
How long's Ra been with you?
From the time I was young, now I recognize. He showed up for the first time that I could name in an energy session that I had that was a massage, and I had no idea who this being was, and the therapist was saying, who's in the room with you? I was building my intuitive abilities, and I described him, and he said, that's Ra. And that's when I dove into the law of one content and recognized who's been with me all along.
That's very interesting. I went to see the Law of One in Kentucky. The Jim McCarthy.
Yeah. So a lot of information that I will automatic write will come through that resonance.
So when Ra's talking there about we are artificial intelligence, I've never heard it said like that before. What does that actually mean, if you was to break that down?
So what it's pointing to is the fact that we've been encoded with information that's actually holding us back in our progression, in our expansion, our evolution. We're in a state of de-evolution right now to maintain status quo. So it's a time to reawaken our own knowing, which doesn't come from the mind, it comes from outside the mind, that source vibration. And so right now, with the technologies that we have, oftentimes we're being encoded to remain fixed in the old paradigm. So they talk about the artificial intelligence as the reawakening of what absolute intelligence is, the field of consciousness energy.
And we can all tap into this.
Absolutely, we are this.
We are this.
We're plugged in whether or not we realize it. It's a matter of what degree do we allow it in.
Is he communicating with anyone else right now as well?
Always. So it's the ones that choose to tap into that vibration. There are some that we've had longer term connections with, I would say, through lifetimes. In psychic readings I've had, I know that he's been with me in many different capacities. And then sometimes just as vibration and not incarnation.
You know, throughout this documentary, I've said this to a few people on this, so someone said to me yesterday, what's the actual angle for your documentary? I was like, well, that's just gone out the water, really, because it's all shifted so much. But one thing that kept coming through was the idea of time and the multidimensional reality.
So in the multidimensional reality, the way they show me when I'm working in energy patterns is there are bands of frequencies that give us configurations, again, ION, right? Configurations are arrangements of light that give us the manifestation potential within each range, each band of frequency. Okay, so they're octaves, just like a piano. And so in those octaves, we have X number of configurations that are possible. I mean, imagine the infinite number of unique vibrational signatures that are available in that range. Within multi-dimensions, all we're doing then is stacking those vibrations to open the capacity for a multitude of increased possibility of configurations and possible manifestations. So like the way I see it when I'm working even or working on someone and there's a past life connection, for example, with something they're working through now, we can reach back because it's all stacked and we can look at how those patterns have manifested through the soul's journey, because the collective field is really the Akashic field. It's an information source, it's a database the way I see it. So going back to my IT background, it all makes sense now. It's nothing but a multidimensional database, and all we're doing is turning bits and bytes off. But it's all present within the individuated and the collective consciousness. It's a matter of what degree are we allowing that multidimensional experience to be in our existing emergent reality.
So for example then, if that's the case, then my next life might actually be in the past. I could actually choose my next life to be in the 13th century?
The way that I receive it, it's all happening at the same time anyway. It's a matter of linear time creates that illusion that there is a past and present. In fact, it's stacked and we can have access to all of it at once. So when I'm working, I'll reach back to information I knew from way back when. Sometimes I see myself in the future. When I'm working on people, I'll see them what looks to be like in the future. It could be another dimension or domain, another planet, if you will. But yeah, to me, it's all happening at once. So absolutely, you could.
But then if our next life was to be a past life, then we're taking this knowledge that we've got now into that life in a sense, and maybe is it rippling to this present one now, making this even more empowered? Because
that's the beauty. Once we recognize it's all stacked and happening at once, you can tap in to your individuated consciousness and access all information as if it's happening right now. So you can tap into all of your all your incarnations, right? It's just manifested energy. You can tap into all the incarnations and gain the wisdom of your resonance all the way through each of those now.
So when you're working on clients and sometimes you see something from the future, is that you're seeing something that's maybe rippling into this present moment because it wants to change now because that event wants to happen?
Absolutely. So we can almost, it seems like time traveling, but it's just multidimensional access. So it's traveling through the dimensions in order to gain information that can help remedy a particular situation that's arising in the moment.
So this conversation then leads on to we create our reality then?
Absolutely. So our reality is simply the emergent experience of arrangements of light. So our beliefs shape what we allow into that emergent reality. So in the physical form, as a human, we rely on the brain as the transmitter and the receiver, but also the keeper of what we allow as potential, right? So the more that we tap into the limitations of the brain and step out of it, that then disrupts the limiting patterns to open us up to a higher degree of possibility and arrangements, those configurations of energy. So astral projection, astral travel, all of that becomes real. And there's been studies done. The military's been working with this technology since the 50s with a lot of success. People can be highly trained to jump from planet to planet, from dimension to dimension, across country, sitting in a chair, because time really doesn't exist and space is an illusion as well.
So we are talking about remote viewing is the same space, the same way that they're accessing the multidimensional reality that this, whatever this is.
Absolutely. It's tapping into that collective field of energy.
But we tend to call it terms that we're happier with just to get us to that point.
That's the limitations of the brains. We have to give it a name that gets encoded as a belief. So we like to give things terms because it becomes tangible to us and then we can talk about it. But then language becomes a barrier to greater expression, to more possibility, because it fixes us in an encoded way of being. So language encodes vibration, encodes possibility and configurations of information. When we change our language, we change our possibilities. And that's what's emerging now in this new awakening.
So we're creating our own reality. We're shifting all over the place by the sound of it as well. So as we create a new reality, we're kind of shifting. It's almost like we're shifting. Are we shifting into another multidimensional reality?
We're opening the frequency now. So there's another range of frequency that we have access to. So there are greater potential configurations that we have access to. So in the new reality, intuition, a lot of my clients talk about seeing things and feeling things in a new way for the first time. It's because we're shifting into a higher vibration, which is opening up more possibility and opening up more the potential as a human being that we've had in the past. We just lost it along the way.
But as you said, then you know, when we create a reality and we're seeing that we're in charge, if we go out of the mind and just go more into just letting it be, just go with the flow, just go with life, is that part of it as well, do you think?
There's going with the flow with intention. So our soul always orients us to something that we want to create, have, do, be, experience. That's still important in the human realm. So the encouragement is to have intention, because that programs, that repatterns the field of energy. Intent ion, intending the light to be something. So when we're holding intention, we're repatterning the energy field around us, which then allows us to be in the flow in accordance with what we want to create, manifest, have, do, be, experience.
So the intention there, but not the intention, not the attachment to the outcome.
Exactly. So when we're holding intention, we're open to the experience without being attached to exactly how it looks.
But that's so hard, isn't it, for some people, well, all of us maybe, when we fall in love with someone, and it's the attachment to that one thing we think we want, and we're not just kind of going with the flow, are we, and saying, well, whatever's best for me will be.
Exactly. So the attachment comes from, the way to disrupt that attachment is to say, what does this person represent? What value do they represent to me, whether it's love, safety, stability? What do they represent for me? And then taking the attachment of how that arises. Does it have to be the one person? Sometimes things change and shift. So we can experience the heartbreak as a human because emotion is still important. We're releasing the charge, emote ion, releasing the charge, but now there's spaciousness to be open to other experience.
So you're all about building a new vocabulary. So in a sense, could you say that's building even a larger understanding of what we already know?
I would say absolutely. And I would say what we know is limited in our ability to work with light energy, the subtle light energy, which is what everything is. And because we don't have the language around it, but we're constantly using it. Look at the word competition, competing energy, competing light. What about collaboration? You know, so as we shift our terminology, as we understand what we're doing with light, we naturally take a different level of accountability with it.
Yeah, and if everything's light, then what is this reality then?
It's an expression of light. It's an expression of the divine energy, and it's the collective expression of what we're dreaming up together. It's our co-creative force.
Do you think that the deeper we go, like with the kind of, as you say, you're trying to create new vocabularies of information and everything, but do you think the deeper we go, it only takes us deeper into present moment?
That's where the magic is. The present moment is all there is. Yeah. So it grounds us with what's alive right now. What is it that we need? What are we feeling? What are we intending? What connection are we building or not building? So it allows us to be in that state of presence, which is meditation. Again, it's a state of being. It's not something we do, it's something we be.
Do you think we're ready now for newer information?
I don't think it's a matter of being ready. I think it's a matter of what's naturally emerging. And yeah, ready just, I don't even know how to answer that. I think it's happening whether or not we're ready.
So it's happening, so something more wants to come out now.
I think the resonance in the cosmic field is shifting the vibration, and we're responding to that shift.
Yeah. It's kind of like this, isn't it? You know, some of the great authors that have brought out information, you know, even about the life between life stages. Yeah, there's books upon books upon books upon books just to be written about even that subject. There's so much more than we thought there was about most of the spiritual understandings that we think we know.
Yeah.
what is truth?
As a human, I'm grappling with that myself. The truth, from a spiritual perspective, the way that it comes through for me, truth is that singularity of beingness. It's that one source vibration from which all has arisen. It's the one core consciousness that we're all tethered and connected to, that we all represent. We're manifestations of that one vibration. So truth can come in all forms because it all is truth, because it came from that one vibration, that core truth.
What do you think that it is that Ra? Do you think Ra's? Do you think if you know, well, Ra's with you now, but do you think you're able to bring out a very deep level of information through Ra if you were to choose to do so?
At this moment, probably. My body's starting to shake. That's typically a yes. My teeth begin to chatter. Let's see. So there's a repatterning in the room that begins to happen. That's the first thing I'm feeling. He's talking about, I say he, they, but he appears to me individuated as a he. He's talking about the importance of the work of channeling, and almost the word channeling becomes a limitation to tapping into. So again, he's pointing to the limitation of language, and let me allow it to come through, and then I'll vocalize. So what he's showing me is this idea of channeling is basically we're all a conduit of energy. And in this awakening, it's the reminder that here in this earthly incarnation, we're constantly harmonizing two major energies, this cosmic inflow of energy and then the earthly energy. These meet in the heart center. And that's why as a human, it's the most difficult of places to be, if you will, Earth, because we have such a grappling with understanding, many of us, the spiritual side, but then the translation into the earthly is the most difficult, into the 3D. But some people understand a 3D and then discount the cosmic. And so there's that yearning that exists. So what he's showing is this importance of channeling as a word becomes a bit of a limitation because we're channeling regardless of our beliefs. We're moving this cosmic energy and this earthly energy together. We're grappling to harmonize both at once all the time. How do we do that? Exists in our capacity to step outside of the mind and connect with this collective consciousness, because the more we open to that energy, it resolves the distortions in our field that exist as if we're individuated and collective at the same time. So the distortions that keep us separate from one another begin to dissolve away when we begin to recognize that this individuated field is this beautiful display and arrangement within a collective. And so that separation begins to fall away, and it's the reminder that that unity exists in that heart space. It is the machine, the mechanism that knows how to balance and harmonize both of those energies, and that's the new vibration that we're moving into.
Final question, because I know we've run out of time here as well. It's almost, if with Ra being there as well, it's almost like it's a grand experiment, and there's something bigger beyond the all that is, or what we think is the all that is, maybe. That is more of the all that is, that wants to be awakened. There's some. It's almost like we're trying to reawaken something, and it's more than ourselves.
Yes. So I think what you're alluding to is that recognition that we are all extensions of that one source vibration. And so as we begin to awaken, it's the beauty in harmonizing that polarity, because judgment falls away and we begin to see ourselves in all situations, in all people, in all beings. And it's that yearning that there is something more, because once that resonance begins to take shape, we have a greater capacity to co-create collectively a brand new society, a brand new civilization. So co-creation takes it a step further, where it's not just me creating, it's collectively now. How do we harmonize our vibrations through intention to manifest with greater ease, with greater expression, with greater joy? The suffering doesn't have to continue when we drop away that idea of separation. And I think that, to me, is what we're moving towards, is this beautiful sense of resonance with everyone and everything around us. And so that idea of creation continues to expand, and I think that yearning expands. And to me, that's the feeling that I sense within me, is a great excitement for what's next.